Alright, you rusty ring pieces, and welcome to this edition of Koit On. Today's episode is all about political correctness, and I'm going to be interviewed by Humorless Bear. Koit On! Political correctness. So, what's your definition of political correctness? My definition would be this. It's language, actions and policies that are meant to be a means to avoid offence. That's all it's about, is to avoid offence to certain people, certain categories of people, certain institutions or whatever. It started, well, from my understanding, the roots of it came about in the early to mid 20th century. But it really started to take off late 80s and 90s when offence culture started to grow. Can you give me an example? Examples? Yeah, I can give you examples. Well, first off, you've got the mild types, the subtle language replacement. So, take Canada as an example, where Justin Trudeau, the very, very liberal prime minister of that country, is very, very keen on replacing words like mankind, changing it to people kind. Examples like that. You've got examples where in the UK, councils have changed the use of spotted dick to now become spotted Richard. And spotted dick, by the way, is an old term or an old name for a pudding that's generations old. But now we're retrospectively, fixing history, if you will, which is silly. And then you've got the insidious types of political correctness. So, I mean, this is going to jump straight to the really bad stuff, but you've got like the rape gangs going on across England that have been going on for like 20 to 30 years and is actually being discovered in other European countries, by the way, but where we label the perpetrators as Asian, which covers a plethora of countries across the world, a whole regions, whereas what we should be using is the exact term, Pakistani men. So why is this happening? Well, it's all about preventing offence to people. So we cannot speak the truth. We cannot use words that have been used for centuries, for eons. We have to think always of the people who might be offended, the minority that are offended. So we are pandering to the minority and pushing that view on the majority, which is silly. That's not really how you run a society. That society is essentially going to eat itself from within. Another example would be, think of your flags of your country. I'm from England, and therefore, if I wanted to, I want to put up, say, an English flag in my back garden if I had a flagpole. So if I did that, I can guarantee there would be complaints to the council to say that I was racist. Or I'm causing offence to people from other cultures, other beliefs, from other countries, because I'm displaying my flag in my own country. That's not right. So why is it that the small person who is offended, their rights trump mine? And it's not only happening in England, that's happening across Western civilization. I know that the American flag has been burned a number of times by the leftists who say that the patriots, displaying that flag are racists or are Neanderthals. You've got it happening in Australia where there's marches against Australia Day on their national holiday, celebrating their country. It's just ridiculous how the left seems to want to destroy the countries in which they live. Is it now cultural? Yes, I believe so. I mean, if you think about it, we've had 30 years since political correctness was really started to be pushed in our countries, whereby we're at a point now where schools, universities, and the media are all pushing political correctness to a point where we are indoctrinated to use it. But for what benefit? It doesn't really benefit us at all, because all political correctness does is actually hide or mask the truth. Unfortunately, we're at a point now where feelings seem to trump science, where emotions seem to trump facts and truth. And how's that good? Seriously. Where's critical thinking gone? Where's logic gone? Where's digesting both sides of an argument to find the real truth behind it and the real avenue of resolution? Which brings me to the whitewashing of history. Now, this seems to be going on again across the Western civilization recently, because not content with the current avenues of outrage, people are looking to history now to try and clean it up. So you take the example of America, where certain universities, their students have gone out to actively tear down statues. There's been an example of a Confederate soldier statue being torn down because it might be offensive to people to have that guy, stood up there. Something that stood there for years. There's good parts of history, there's mediocre parts of history, and there's bad parts of history. But it's all history. It's part of your nation. It's part of your culture. It's part of your ancestry. To suddenly say, oh, I don't like that part, I'm tearing it down, doesn't mean to say that that history doesn't exist. It's still there. But some of these things are reminders to people. So I've got no issue with a Confederate statue stood up. It might generate discussion. And then you might say, oh, that's bad. That's good. Yeah, but he did think this, he did think that. And then have a logical, critical conversation. That's how to move forward. But if it's not there anymore, you're not learning anything because there's no discussion to generate thought. We're not only doing that with statues, we're doing it with literature. So it seems like we're going back over old books now to say, oh, I don't like that part of the time. You've got the Mark Twain book, Huckleberry Finn. Yes, there's the N-word used throughout history. And the N-word used throughout that book, and quite a lot of times, apparently. And now, it's changed. We're changing that word to something else. But that doesn't generate thought in the student studying that book. It needs to be authentic to the time. Which brings me on to something else. We've got Hollywood movies, and Film Foundation movies being made where we seem to be inserting minorities into history. Black people into the court of Queen Elizabeth, etc. No! They wouldn't have had them. Can we not have reality? If we did bad things in the past, by slavery, etc., show it. We need to learn from it, not hide it. Do not whitewash. It does not help the human race.
Where's this all coming from?
Initially, it came from a small group of people. People who felt outraged that certain people in society were being victimised. And you know what? That's fair enough. I want everyone to be treated fairly. I don't want anyone to be victimised specifically. But it got to a point where so many people started jumping on the bandwagon. Even governments started jumping on the bandwagon and pandering to the smaller groups. And ultimately, that's where we're at today. We're at a point now where I believe social media, governments, they're all being used to control what you say. And so I think political correctness is now a tool of control, serious control. And you will be victimized now for wrong think. If you think the wrong way, if you're not politically correct, you're now going to be the one being victimized. But an interesting note here is, now that you're being victimized for your political correctness, or incorrectness, should I say, shouldn't you then be supported with political correctness?
Would you sniff my butt for a £5?
I'll counter offer. $2.50 and a toffee crisp, and it's game on.
Do you think it can be overcome?
Hell yes, it could be overcome. But it's going to take a lot of strong-willed, a lot of strong-minded people to stand up and say, look, no more. No more of this crap. It doesn't do humanity any service at all. Truth sets people free, not stifling truth. And I'm going to refer to something here. I'm going to refer to Star Trek First Contact. It was released, I think, in 96. Anyway, something very profound that Captain Picard said during that film. And it represents everything that's currently wrong with this NPC hive mind of the leftists. In that film, the Borg the hive mind, try to assimilate the Federation. Listen to this. We've made too many compromises already. Too many retreats. They invade our space and we fall back. They assimilate entire worlds and we fall back. Not again. The line must be drawn here, this far and no further. Now that can't be any more on point, can it? Against the hive mind of the NPCs and the leftists who all want to push you down this, you must think this way. Well, no, I'm not going to think that way. I'm a strong-willed, I'm a logical, and I'm an educated person. And I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm going to stay a strong individual, and I will not form part of your uneducated collective. Offense culture does not serve humanity. Critical thinking, logical thinking, and compassion actually serves humanity. If you're offended by something, that's a choice you make. Ultimately, I couldn't give a shit if you're offended. Excuse the French. And you might be, offended that I said, excuse my French there, because that might be offensive against French people. Tough. It's going to take a lot of strong-willed individuals like me. Individuals. We have made too many retreats so far. We've retreated on humour. It's not a lie to say that a fair amount of top comedians won't even play universities anymore for fear that they might be criticised for offending somebody. Ridiculous. We are pandering to the minority still. We can't criticise religions. We cannot criticise culture. We cannot criticise individuals. And whilst you might think that's having a go at somebody, actually, criticise comes from the word to critically think. We want to critically analyse something. Have a laugh at it as well. If we lose our humour, we are being stifled. I don't know about you guys, but humour is a great part of my life. I like to take the piss out of everyone and anything. Not for any nefarious and insidious reasons, but just because the opportunity's there to have a laugh and to share humour. I'd rather go through life laughing and smirking and God knows what else than being this all the time. That is where the leftists are coming from, the outraged people. They're always looking for a reason to be mad. I'm looking for a reason to have a laugh. But unfortunately, I'm in a position where I'm mad about where you guys have put us. I truly think that the fight back against political correctness is happening and has been happening for quite a while. You know, there's a growing community, if you will, of YouTubers fighting back against this. Unfortunately, there is pressure on social media as well to deplatform and stifle free speech, which is essentially holding back my side of the argument on political correctness. Once it reaches a tipping point, which it will, because those platforms, social media, they will become defunct. Others will rise to support people who think along my views. And once they do, truth cannot be suppressed anymore. And actually, once that truth then gets out to the masses, it can't be stopped. For anyone watching this who disagrees with my views, and you know, I can appreciate that my views may be completely alien to certain other people. But I would ask you this. Sincerely search your soul and say to yourself, would you rather have a piece of thought that tells you to speak a certain way, or would you rather have the truth? Ask yourself that question now. Would you rather have the truth, or would you rather have somebody flower up language and soften it down for fear of offending you? Seriously, what's your answer? Ultimately, if you search your soul, you know it's the truth. The truth will out. So ultimately, we need a mindset change. If you're an easily offended person and you're at a point in a book, say, when you're reading it, that something offends you, make a choice. Close the book. If you're at a point where you're watching a film and something in it offends you, turn off the film. If you're listening to a piece of music and something offends you in there, a lyric, a stray, this and that and the other, turn it off. Don't listen anymore. If you're in a conversation with somebody who might say something that offends you, walk away. It's that simple. That's all it takes. And when companies and governments and institutions come on board and say, actually, do you know what? This isn't serving the greater good. We're not going to give in to the mob. We're not going to pander to the minority. Then things will really change. And who runs those companies? Groups of individuals. And if enough of them get together who think the same way as I do, you can bet your bottom dollar that things will change for the better. Truth, again, will out. And I think I'm going to leave it there. I mean, I could have gone more into the social media side of things and the deplatforming and the stifling of voices, specifically conservative voices, but I'm actually going to save that for another time. I don't want to muddy the waters too much here. So, that's the end of this episode. Please like, please share, and please subscribe to my channel. If there's anything you disagree with, or if there's anything you agree with, write in the comments below and let me know. Please also write in the comments if there's any other topics that you'd like me to cover, and I'll do my best to create a video on those. But for now, you know what you can do, don't you? Cough!